Celia, you mentioned that you started off with IH in 1975. Can you tell me about how that happened?
Yes, I'd come back to the Argentine because I am Argentine, though a lot of people don't know this, but I am Argentine. I was born and brought up in Argentina, and I had been living abroad in Brazil and in England, and I'd come back to the Argentine at the age of 25 with not much idea of what I really wanted to do. One evening I got a phone call from David Thompson, who introduced himself and said who he was, and told me he'd been given my number by somebody he'd met in a bar. And so I said, oh, good, and what, would you like, why are you calling me? He said, well, I'm here, I've been here for a year. I'm at International House. I was sent out to inspect a school, and the director of this school disappeared, so as an inspector I had to stay. And I need teachers, and I wondered whether you would come in and talk to me and see if we can work something out. So I said, yeah, sure, fine. So I trotted in and met David. And yes, in effect, he had been in Buenos Aires for about a year and had been sent in by John Haycraft to inspect a school, this school that had been put up by a couple of owners, school owners in Argentina, namely St. Catherine's, the owner of St. Catherine's, Mary Massini, and the owner of the Rio de la Plata school, Meme Ortiz, had sent teachers to do teacher training, the 2-week teacher training course with John, and John had said, well, open up a school in Buenos Aires, as John did, it was sort of one of his things, and they did, and John had sent out a teacher and a director, but something went horribly wrong, and the director and the teacher disappeared, and so when David came in from Bangkok, having inspected Bangkok, John said, go down to Argentina and see what's happening, and gave him a one-way ticket. And so David did come in, but you really do have to interview David, because this is his story. And anyway, so he met, and he arrived, and he had 30 students, and on a one-way ticket with nowhere, and so he was living in the school. And he had no other option but to teach his students to earn some money to be able to pay for a meal. And of course, being David, he did a very good job, and those 30 students soon grew, and he needed help. And somebody, the son of a friend of mine, gave David my number. And this is how it all started. So I trotted in to see David, and him being a teacher trainer, he was Scott Thornbury's trainer, trained me, and off we started. And that's how I started at International House. And we started with 30 students, and in 1 year we did 150 students, and it kept growing. And when the school had to be formed legally, David was a tourist, and I'm, being the Argentine, had the documents, so we put the school up on my name. And it grew and grew and grew, and Recoleta became what it is, and Belgrano was opened after or at the same time that I'd opened San Isidro. And it was great. But during the time of, so going back to how San Isidro was part of the main school, but in the years 2001, which I mentioned before, our economic crash, after suddenly from having a peso that was worth $1, we suddenly slumped into 4 pesos becoming $1. Most companies, a lot of companies went under. San Isidro lost 50% of its students from one day to the next, and it seemed a good idea to come out from under the umbrella of the main school, the limited company, and try and make it on its own, which is what we did, and that's why I turned it into a trust. And it's doing well. Yes, it's doing okay. But the story is, thanks to this person that David met in a bar, and I hasten to add, this person was a teacher who'd come out on contract but had a bad drinking problem and had lost his job and spent most of his time in this particular bar. And so thanks to this particular teacher is why I have close connections with International House, and have done for most of my life.
So you were trained in Argentina as well?
Yes.
You didn't train in London?
No.